What if everything you thought you knew about Sacsayhuaman's massive walls was wrong? For centuries, we've accepted one explanation, a simple story of a fortress built for war. But look at it. The sheer scale, the incredible precision, it almost feels like a different kind of architecture entirely. And that's what we're here to explore today. We're going to dive deep into a mystery that has puzzled historians for hundreds of years. So, get ready to challenge everything you've been taught about. For most people, Sacsayhuaman is just a cool-looking fortress. It's the head of the puma if you're in Cusco, the giant walls looming over the city. You see the massive zigzag patterns and the colossal stones, some weighing over 100 tons, and you think, wow, that's a serious defensive wall. And in a way it was. During the Spanish conquest, the Inca did use it as a stronghold. The Spanish were in awe, and they wrote about it as a fortress. And that story has stuck. But here's the thing, it's a bit too simple. When you really look at Sacsayhuaman as a fortress, some things just don't add up. Where are the arrow slits? The typical battlements you'd see on a European castle. The design is so complex, it's almost a logistical nightmare to defend. It feels like we're looking at a solution to a different problem entirely. What if these walls weren't built for war at all? What if they were built for something else, something far more advanced and perhaps far more mind-blowing? Today, we're going beyond the fortress narrative. We'll explore new, revolutionary theories that challenge the traditional story and reveal the true genius of the people who built this place. We'll look at it not just as a defensive structure, but as a masterpiece of engineering, a hub of a lost technology, and a window into a truly remarkable civilization. Prepare to uncover the hidden secrets these colossal stones have kept for millennia. So, we've all seen the pictures. We know the story. Sacsayhuaman, a massive, impenetrable fortress, a stronghold built to defend the capital of the Inca Empire. It's the dominant narrative, and it makes perfect sense at first glance. The sheer scale of it, the colossal walls that loom over Cusco, it feels like a military masterpiece. But when you move beyond that first impression and start to ask the hard questions, the fortress theory starts to fall apart. It's like looking at a puzzle piece that seems to fit, but when you zoom in, the shape is all wrong. Let's start with the most basic, undeniable fact about a fortress. Its purpose is to keep people out and to protect the people inside. So what do you need for that? You need defensive features. You need things like arrow slits, crenellations, the jagged teeth on top of the walls, and dedicated watchtowers. These are the standard tools of ancient and medieval warfare, built into almost every defensive structure around the globe. Think of castles in Europe or the Great Wall of China. They are bristling with these features, designed for archers and soldiers to defend from above. Now, look closely at Sacsayhuaman. Look for the arrow slits. Look for the battlements. You won't find them. The walls are smooth, almost flawlessly fitted together, and they rise up in these giant, unadorned surfaces. If this was a place built for archers to rain down arrows on an enemy, it's a spectacularly poor design. You'd have to stand on top of the wall itself, completely exposed to the enemy below. That's not just a flaw. It's a fundamental failure of military design. But it gets even more perplexing when you consider the layout. The walls aren't a simple, straight line. They're a series of massive zigzags, often called diente de puma or the puma's teeth. On the surface, this might seem like a good thing. It creates a series of interlocking lines of fire, right? Well, in theory, maybe. In practice, it's a logistical nightmare. In a real battle, these zigzags would create dead zones, sections of the wall, where the defenders on one part couldn't see or support the defenders on another. An enemy could exploit these blind spots, get right up to the wall, and start to undermine it without being seen. And it's not just the zigzags. Think about the entrances. A fortress is supposed to be difficult to enter. You have drawbridges, layered gates, and narrow choke points. But Sacsayhuaman has these enormous, wide gateways, some of them up to 10 feet wide. They are completely exposed and incredibly difficult to defend. Imagine trying to hold off an invading army at one of these gates. It would be a slaughter. It's the equivalent of building a high-tech bank vault and leaving the front door wide open. It just doesn't make any sense from a strategic standpoint. The design is almost counterintuitive to defense. It's as if the builders were prioritizing something else entirely. Then there's the question of scale and material. We're talking about stones that weigh well over 100 tons, moved and fitted with a precision that still baffles modern engineers. Think about the effort it would take just to move one of these stones. And for what purpose? A traditional fortress, even a well-built one, doesn't need this level of megalithic construction. You don't need 100-ton blocks to repel a battering ram or stop an army. Lighter, more manageable stones would have been far more efficient and just as effective. The incredible, puzzle-like fitting of the stones, what's known as ashlar masonry, is a marvel in itself. They fit so tightly, you can't even slide a piece of paper between them. This isn't just for strength, it's for something more. This is a level of craftsmanship that goes far beyond what is necessary for a defensive wall. It points to a purpose that is ceremonial, sacred, or perhaps even technological. These aren't just walls to stop people, they're masterpieces, designed to last not for years, but for millennia, with a built-in seismic resilience that has allowed them to withstand countless earthquakes. A fortress is a temporary necessity. A sacred site is a permanent monument. The level of effort here speaks to permanence. Now I know what you're thinking, but the Spanish chronicles say it was a fortress. And that's a fair point, but we have to remember the context. The Spanish arriving in the 16th century came from a culture of castle building and siege warfare. When they saw these giant, intimidating walls, the first and only thing their minds could comprehend was fortress. It was the lens through which they viewed the world. They documented it as such, because that's all they knew. Crucially, the Incas did use Sacsayhuaman as a defensive stronghold during the final battles against the Spanish. But that doesn't mean it was its original purpose. You can use a church as a hospital in an emergency, but that doesn't make it a hospital. You can use a school as a refugee shelter, but its primary function is something else entirely. Sacsayhuaman was a pre-existing, massive structure, and when the need arose, it was naturally repurposed for defense. The fact that it was used for war at the end of its history has overshadowed its true original function, leading us to believe a simplified and, frankly, inaccurate story. So where does that leave us? We've looked at the evidence. The lack of standard defensive features, the counterintuitive layout, and the massive, meticulous construction all point to the same conclusion. The fortress narrative is incomplete. It's a simplification that fails to capture the true genius of the Inca. So if these walls weren't built for war, then what were they for? What's the real story behind this colossal mystery? The answers might be far more incredible than we ever imagined. In our last segment, we broke down the fortress theory. We saw that the lack of defensive features, the confusing layout, and the sheer over-the-top construction simply don't make sense for a military stronghold. So if Sacsayhuaman wasn't a fortress, then what was it? The answer, I believe, is right here in the stones themselves. These walls are not just walls, they are a monument to a forgotten purpose, a masterpiece of engineering that tells a story far more incredible than simple defense. Look at the stones. The first thing you'll notice is their size, of course. Some of them weigh over 100 tons. But the next thing you notice, if you get up close, is the precision. They are cut with such incredible accuracy that you can't even slide a piece of paper between them. This is what's known as ashlar masonry, and the Incas were absolute masters of it. But they didn't use a simple, predictable shape. They used these complex, interlocking, almost puzzle-like forms. And this isn't for looks, it's for survival. You see, Cusco is located in a highly active seismic zone. Earthquakes are a frequent, terrifying reality here. Spanish colonial buildings with their rigid, square blocks and brittle mortar collapsed time and time again. But the Inca walls, they stood. They still stand today. The secret is in the perfectly imperfect fit, the rounded corners, the irregular shapes, the way each stone nestles into the next without any mortar. During an earthquake, the stones don't fight the movement, they surrender to it. They shift, they vibrate, and they then settle back into place. It's a design that is in complete harmony with the chaotic forces of nature. This level of engineering isn't a fluke. It's a deliberate, sophisticated, and genius solution to a geographical problem. It tells us that the builders of Sacsayhuaman weren't just thinking about today, they were building for eternity. They had a deep, intuitive knowledge of geology and physics that we are only just beginning to comprehend. The very foundation of this site defies our modern expectations of what's possible with primitive tools. And it's this astonishing level of craftsmanship that leads us to some of the most fascinating theories about its true purpose. And this takes us to our next clue: sound. When you stand near these walls and listen, you can almost feel the acoustics of the place. The curved surfaces of the stones, their specific arrangement. Some researchers believe these walls were designed with acoustical properties in mind. Think about a concert hall or a modern amphitheater. They aren't built with flat, square walls. They use curved surfaces to direct and amplify sound. What if these walls at Sacsayhuaman did the same thing? Imagine a ceremony. The sound of a drum, a chant, a voice speaking to a crowd of thousands in the open air. The walls would not just echo the sound, they would shape and channel it, creating an immersive, multi-sensory experience. It would make the speaker's voice seem to come from everywhere at once, a voice of the gods themselves. This theory suggests that Sacsayhuaman was less about keeping people out and more about drawing them in. A place designed to create a powerful, spiritual, and perhaps even transcendent sonic experience. It's a purpose that is both ancient and, from an engineering perspective, incredibly advanced. But the stones tell us so much more. The Inca were master astronomers. Their culture was deeply connected to the movement of the sun, the moon, and the stars. They knew the solstices and equinoxes with pinpoint accuracy, and their sacred sites often reflect this. The zigzag shape of Sacsayhuaman's walls, once dismissed as a bizarre military design, takes on a new meaning when you look at it from a different perspective. What if the walls were a giant calendar? It's been suggested that the specific angles and alignments of the walls and the structures within the site were designed to track the sun's path throughout the year. As the sun rises and sets on the solstices, its rays would hit the walls in a very specific, dramatic way. Shadows would fall in precise locations, acting like a cosmic clock. It's a theory with solid precedent. Think of the famous Intihuatana stone at Machu Picchu, a literal sundial designed for the same purpose. Sacsayhuaman, with its monumental scale, could have been a far grander observatory, a place where priests and astronomers could predict celestial events and conduct ceremonies to honor their gods. So, when we put it all together, the picture that emerges is not of a simple military base. It's a picture of an incredibly sophisticated multi-purpose site, a masterpiece of seismic engineering, a possible acoustic amphitheater, and a monumental astronomical observatory. The very flaws in the fortress theory become the evidence for a far more complex and mind-blowing purpose. And it all begins with the incredible knowledge and skill embedded in every single stone. So far, we've unraveled the myth of Sacsayhuaman as a simple fortress and explored its possible functions as a seismic masterpiece, an acoustic amphitheater, or an astronomical observatory. But what if we're still thinking too small? What if the stones of Sacsayhuaman were not just about physical or ceremonial purposes, but about something far more esoteric, something that defies our modern understanding of technology and energy? This brings us to a radical but deeply compelling theory that Sacsayhuaman was built as a hub for a lost ancient technology. This idea sounds a bit like science fiction, I know. But hear me out. For centuries, researchers have been puzzled by the precision of the stone cutting. The way the stones are shaped and fit together is simply phenomenal. It's been said that the Incas used simple stone tools to achieve this, but that explanation is almost as unbelievable as the fortress theory. The marks left on some of the stones, the perfectly flat surfaces, and the incredible, almost impossible joins suggest something much more advanced than hammering one rock against another. It suggests a form of energy-based cutting or shaping, maybe some form of sound or light technology. Now, before you dismiss this, let's look at the evidence. The surfaces of the stones often show these strange, swirling patterns. They're not just tool marks. They're more like traces of a powerful, energetic process. It's almost as if the stones were heated or softened to be molded into place. This is a level of technological achievement that seems impossible for a pre-industrial civilization. But what if our historical record of the Inca is simply incomplete? What if they had access to knowledge we've completely forgotten? And it's not just the shaping of the stones. It's also the placement. The site of Sacsayhuaman sits on a nexus of powerful ley lines. These are theoretical energetic pathways that crisscross the Earth. Many ancient sites around the world, from Stonehenge to the Giza pyramids, are believed to be built on these same energetic points. This isn't a coincidence. It suggests a deliberate choice to harness or interact with the natural energies of the planet. Some researchers believe that the massive stones of Sacsayhuaman, with their high quartz content, could have acted as giant energy conductors or capacitors. Quartz is a crystal that is highly piezoelectric, meaning it generates an electrical charge when subjected to mechanical stress. Now, imagine a 100-ton stone made of quartz-rich rock sitting in a seismically active zone. Every single minor tremor, every footstep, every vibration would generate a small electric current. Now, multiply that by thousands of stones, all meticulously fitted together in a massive, interlocking circuit. The cumulative effect could have been monumental. What if Sacsayhuaman was not a passive structure, but an active machine? A giant, earth-powered device designed to harness, store, and perhaps even amplify the natural energy of the planet. A sort of ancient power grid, if you will. This theory is wild, yes, but it perfectly explains the megalithic scale and the bizarre precision that the fortress theory completely ignores. It suggests a purpose that is both mystical and highly scientific. The ceremonial purpose of the site also fits perfectly into this theory. What if the elaborate ceremonies, the music, the chanting, and the human presence weren't just for show? What if they were part of the process? The vibrations from drums and chants could have acted as a trigger, a way to mechanically activate the piezoelectric properties of the stones, releasing the stored energy. And then there are the strange, almost inexplicable tunnels and underground passages that crisscross the site. They are not just for storage or defense. Some researchers believe these passages were a crucial part of the energy system, acting as conduits to channel the power generated by the walls to other parts of the site, or even to the city of Cusco itself. The famous Chincana, or labyrinth, is often cited as an example. It's a series of intricate, winding passages that seem to have no practical purpose. But, from an energetic perspective, they could have been a vital component of the system, designed to guide and concentrate the energy. This all points to a civilization that understood physics in a way that we are still trying to grasp. They weren't just master stonemasons, they were master engineers, physicists, and geologists, all in one. They were able to build a structure that was not only beautiful and functional, but also a living, breathing part of the planet itself. Now, of course, this is a theory. We don't have a manual and we don't have the schematics, but what we do have is a monument that defies all conventional explanations. The fortress theory is weak, the astronomical and acoustic theories are compelling but still incomplete. The energetic hypothesis, while radical, has the potential to explain all the strange details in one coherent framework. It explains the over-the-top precision, The megalithic scale, the strange zigzag patterns, and the location on an energetic nexus. Ultimately, Sacsayhuaman challenges us to look beyond our own assumptions about what was possible in the ancient world. It forces us to ask, what if the past was not as primitive as we think? What if our ancestors were not just surviving, but thriving with a knowledge of the universe that has been lost to time? The true purpose of Sacsayhuaman may remain a mystery, but by exploring these theories, we begin to chip away at the simple narrative and reveal the true, mind-bending genius of the civilization that built this place. The colossal stones of Sacsayhuaman may hold secrets not just of a forgotten empire, but of a forgotten technology. And that, I believe, is a story worth telling. So where does this journey leave us? We began with a single story, a simple narrative that has defined our understanding of Sacsayhuaman for centuries. The fortress. But as we've explored the site, we found that this story is far too small. It fails to explain the masterful seismic engineering, the intricate acoustic design, the potential astronomical purpose, and the mind-bending possibility of a forgotten energetic technology. The fortress theory is a box we've put Sacsayhuaman in, and it's a box that's far too small to contain its true genius. What we've been doing is more than just debunking a theory. We've been reclaiming the narrative. We're moving beyond the simplified, colonial-era explanation and beginning to see Sacsayhuaman not through the lens of a European military strategist, but through the eyes of the people who built it. We're seeing it as a testament to their knowledge, their connection to the earth, and their profound understanding of the universe. The narrative of the Incas as primitive or savage is a lie that has been told for far too long. The stones of Sacsayhuaman stand as a powerful rebuke to that lie. They whisper to us of a civilization that understood physics, geology, and astronomy in a way we can barely comprehend today. This site is not just a bunch of rocks. It's a living library of lost knowledge. It forces us to reconsider what we think we know about history, about our ancestors, and about what's possible with human ingenuity. The true legacy of Sacsayhuaman is not a story of war, but a story of creation. It's a story of a people who were in such harmony with their environment that they could build with the very forces of nature, creating a monument that has survived countless earthquakes, invasions, and centuries of neglect. This isn't about finding a single definitive answer. We may never know for sure what Sacsayhuaman's primary purpose was. But that's not the point. The point is to ask the right questions. The point is to challenge the comfortable stories we've been told. The point is to appreciate the true wonder of this place, not as a static relic, but as a dynamic testament to human brilliance. So the next time you see a picture of Sacsayhuaman, don't just see a fortress. See a monumental calendar, a powerful energy hub, a massive amphitheater. See the genius of a forgotten civilization that built not for a battle but for eternity. See the true story that the stones have been waiting to tell. Sacsayhuaman reminds us that history is not a finished book. It's an ongoing conversation, and we are all a part of it. The secrets are still out there, waiting to be uncovered, waiting for us to look beyond the obvious and ask, what if? Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey to reclaim the narrative of Sacsayhuaman. I hope you're as inspired as I am to keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep digging deeper into the mysteries of our past. There's so much more to discover.